what he says tonight.
Yeah, he's a great guy. So, and as a matter of fact, he is joining us right now. So, so let's see here. Alex, can you hear me? Alex, where are you? There he is. I'm going to unmute you. Unmute yourself, Alex. Can you do that, or do I have to do it? Let's see where.
Do it.
You can do it. There you go. So say hi to everybody. Tell everybody who you are.
Hello. I'm Alex Salyer. I can only see photos of most of you.
That's because we've muted everybody. So except for my lovely voice. And Jeff, if he wants to jump in occasionally, so he can jump in a little bit too, if he'd like to. So
and Megan's here too.
And Megan's here. Very good. So yes, she is. I just noticed that now. So good. And we're going to be joined, like I said, very shortly by Leo Riley. So hopefully he'll be in here in a second. So
any word on Jennifer Lopez coming in? Yeah,
that's later. J-Lo's coming in. Damn it, Alex! I told you not to spoil the surprise.
Oh shit!
Man, jeez. All right, yeah, J-Lo's coming in. She's such a pain. But
hey,
hey, what's up, Kim, bro?
Can you hear me?
Oh, it's Leo. Hey, Leo.
Leo.
Yeah, I can hear you, man. It's like you're like a ghost.
Ooh, spooky.
So it's Leo Riley. So
Cool.
Leo, hi.
How's it going?
I'm good. So good. I'm glad you're here. I must have admitted you in here, so you've been kind of lurking in the background.
That's what I do.
That's what you do. So that's very good. So Tom keeps trying to join us, but he's having some kind of issue with his audio. So let's hope he can kind of get in at some point here. So anyway, so Leo, you've been gracious enough to join us with your presence because you're such a busy guy. So I've been trying to have Leo do this with me for quite some time. So I'm very honored that he's actually
thanks, Dave.
agreed to do this. So you're a hell of a guy, and
Miss you, buddy.
And I miss you too. Like that was, we worked together at Marvel for a very long time, huh?
Yeah, probably 4 years. 4 or 5 years.
Because Hulk. I mean, you were busy doing stuff while we were doing Hulk, and
yeah,
your office was literally right next door to Frank and I.
Yeah,
you got to hear all of our profanity, and
I did.
Our comedy routine, the comedy routine that we have. So Frank Gomez, may he rest in peace. No, he's not. He's just under a lot of deadline. He's a buddy of ours, and he is a hell of a artist. He'll tell you that himself. He'll be happy to tell you that as well. But he is, and he is very busy right now. He's busy with freelance and real work and all that kind of stuff. So he said he would love to join us, but he can't. Okay. So we'll have a drink in his honor. So
that's too bad.
Are we drinking?
Yeah, go ahead, Alex. Go have a drink.
Okay, hold on.
There we go. There's Leo. So, dude, but yeah, like I said, I've been, wanting to talk, shop and talk stuff with you for a while. So I'm glad you're able to make a little bit of time. And,
yeah, of course.
How you doing? How's everything going? Everybody doing okay?
Yeah, we're hanging in there.
Yeah.
Probably like most places in town, we're found a way to kind of keep moving forward. So
yeah.
Which has been really good for
animation. We're very lucky,
Yeah.
We're able to work, and I'm working with Alex and Jeff, a couple of the guys that are here on a show for Netflix at Titmouse.
Oh, nice.
And, so it's nice, it's nice to be able to kind of work remotely and not have to it's good to know you can actually work, because I mean, boy, so many people in entertainment can't. So
thank you, IT.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's true.
Awesome.
It's true. I don't know. We could have probably still done the stuff FedEx, dude. We probably still could have been shipping stuff FedEx if we had to, right? So we still had that option as well. But yeah. So how's things going? So you want to why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you're doing right now? So that way,
Sure. Let's see. Currently, I'm supervising Fast and Furious series. That's, of course, on Netflix, like just about everything else is right now.
Is this season one? Is that season one, Leo?
Season one is up. Yeah.
That's the only one that's dropped so far. There's
correct.
Okay.
Correct. But be on the lookout. That's all I can say.
They'll have to kill you. So
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So and so how so you're yeah, so what do you so tell everybody what you do over there. So you're, in charge of all the storyboard people, correct?
Yeah, pretty much. I
Yeah.
mean, with this current position or the current gig, yeah, that's pretty much which it was, of course, through everybody gets vetted through the EPs and such. But yeah, I pretty much have some say in putting the storyboard teams together and kind of working with episodic directors and kind of making sure everything's in line with what the EPs want to see for the show.
Right.
Yeah, and just getting it through the animatic stage, and then at that point it kind of moves on and those guys take over.
Well, I know that gig was pretty much a dream job for you because you're so into cars and so
Yeah.
what were some of the influences? Why don't you tell everybody, because you have some great, if you guys want some really cool, awesome car like anime to watch, Leo can give you some pointers on where to go, right, Leo? A couple of good ones.
Oh, I mean probably the top of the line, at least for me, has been Redline, which came out a few years ago, which is amazing. All of the stuff from those folks is amazing.
Yeah.
Initial D, we looked at a lot of stuff, but of course we have the live action series to reference also that.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, Leo, with that stuff. Did you guys have like a set direction that they wanted you to follow? Because since it is a franchise, or was it kind of like, hey, let's see if we can push this because it's animated? Did they?
I mean, if you look at the series, of course, it's kind of gone from being very kind of a standard street racer series to something that's
superheroes.
Yeah, borderline outer space.
Yeah,
it's awesome. I mean, it's good stuff. But so I don't know, what would I say about that? I think the big thing was translating what's certainly kind of geared towards an older audience to something that a younger audience would be interested in, and kind of getting a hold of some younger fans. For sure.
Well, I mean, I know from working with you, at Marvel, you were very, very good. I always thought that you were very good with the board artists because you kind of let us have our own voices on the show. And it was always, as long as it was within a certain parameter of what was there, we were pushing stuff, but you weren't like, you can't do that, don't do this or don't do that. I never felt restricted working with you at all. I always thought that everything that we did was always in service to the story, whether or not it turned out well animated when it came back. It's a different story, but
challenges there, of course.
But
I mean, for me, I mean, my approach has always been, you sort of set the stage, let everybody know kind of what the mandate is and what the parameters are that we should work within, and then basically, honor the script and show me what you can do. And then from there, if I see something within that I think we can kind of steer this way or that way to kind of, pull a little bit more out of it, then I feel that's what my job really is.
Well, that's then that's the best way to be. It's like you're seeing the big picture. Everybody else is seeing everybody's kind of very isolated and kind of has their own set things to pay attention to. So, you need somebody there. That's what, the directors are for. They're seeing the bigger picture. The producers are seeing the bigger picture. So they're able to you're making sure that the redundancies of story might be one thing, but also, the intent of the story is being hit. I'm always big, like I've been teaching now. I don't know, were you still working when I started teaching classes at the Guild? Were you still with Marvel?
No, I think I had gone to DreamWorks by the time.
You might have. You might have been gone. I've been teaching class over there for about 4 years now, 3 years or whatever. And one of the things that, that I focus on heavily is intent, is because I think that's the most important part of the whole job of a board artist, is to visually be able to convey intent of moments within the show. And, it's the intent within the scene, but it's also intent of the bigger picture. And I always actually use a story about when I was working on Guardians. And I don't know if you were supervising, directing when we did this one. It was the episode where Thanos gets captured and he turns Nova like a rogue, like he makes Nova kind of turn on the Guardians. Were you still there?
Yeah, I was still there.
And one of the things, like when we were working on that episode, I always use this as the example. It's just a small little thing, but when I read the script, I had just started. You were still there when I was teaching class. I just started.
Okay.
And Jeff and I, Jeff Wamister, who was the director, one of the episodic directors, we were talking about teaching this class, and Jeff had said to me, "Hey, have you ever seen this thing called Every Frame a Painting?"
Oh, sure.
And you've seen it, right?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And
Great
I
stuff.
hadn't at that time. He said, "You should really check it out because I think it'd be really good for your class." And the first one I watched was the Who Wins the Scene. It's the Hannibal Lecter and Clarice Starling.
Sure.
So it inspired me. Like I was like, "Holy shit!" Like I'm gonna make this Thanos scene, like Who Wins the Scene kind of thing. So I set up the whole thing with Thanos. Like he was, he's supposed to be in that big like chair and that glass dome like comes over him. But I kept everything very open on him. Like I kept all the negative space like closer on him, but it felt like he was free. But the Guardians, I put everything where they looked like, they were in prison, that, a lot of vertical lines. And I also would get the composition and start closing it in a little bit more. And we were like, holy shit, that worked. Like, I had the glass dome comes down. I had the Guardians' reflections get warped in the dome because he's warping their minds and all that kind of stuff. But it's just like little stuff like that is such a rush to be able to like get those moments, those little beats or whatever in a scene, and they're not in the script. There's nothing in the script that's written that way. You're just kind of going, okay, what is this scene about? What is it really about? And that was a really, for me, that was all the years of boarding. Like that was a really, I don't want to say eye-opening, but if that's the right word, but it was kind of like, oh, I really get this. Like I really, like it was a really big aha moment where it was like, I get this. Like it's about intent. Like that's the thing that this should be about, And that's kind of, where now that's kind of become like a mantra for me. It's like, hey, how do you find the intent of the scene and stuff? So, I'm just curious, like with your process, what, when you're looking at the boards and the things that you're looking at, I would assume that those are big things that you're paying attention to. It's like, hey, what's the intent of this episode?
Sure.
In your stuff, just like Guardians, there's an arc, there's a story arc to Fast, as well. So you have, it's very similar in some ways, I imagine, to what Guardians was at Marvel, in the sense that it's a big franchise, it's an action show, and you're making an animated cartoon of it. And it's like, where do you push? Because it's its own separate thing, yet you're dealing with existing characters. So in some ways, the work, I always thought on Guardians, some of the heavy lifting was already done in terms of knowing who these characters were. We weren't just starting fresh. Like the audience already would have some built-in awareness of who these characters are. So we were able to kind of go beyond that and push a little bit further with that, with character. Do you find that happening on Fast? Is that kind of something that, whenever you're doing these guys, you feel like, hey, we can push these characters a little bit more, or do a little bit more with them?
Well, I mean, with that particular franchise, I mean, one of the things that they did do when they were sort of kind of doing this iteration of the brand was all of those characters are original characters, of course, other than Dom, who makes several appearances in the show.
Yeah.
So I guess we didn't really have
they were all their own. They were
Yeah.
all new characters that you have in
Completely.
there.
Yeah.
So it isn't the same thing, I guess. Then
No, sorry.
so it's the opposite of what I was saying. I'm sorry. So I'm not, I gotta say, like, I've only watched a couple of those movies over the years. Like I just watched Hobbs and Shaw. I did watch
Okay.
that one. So it's not really a, it's something that for me, that's a franchise that is like, I've seen it evolve. Like I like it started out, like you said, as street racing and kind of became its own thing. So, well, Leo, let me ask you then. So with new characters, so it is different than Guardian. So how, like, what do you see as differences from like what we were doing at Marvel? Are there any major differences?
I mean, well, certainly always with every production, there's going to be a difference. But again, I think because you have less of a history with these particular characters, maybe there's a little less to lean on with regards to that initial reference, and it kind of takes a little while to warm up to get a sense of who these characters are. And I mean, which again, I mean, at that point, you really rely on the script. That's the script is king, and the writers. Also we have the luxury of one of the EPs as the head writer, so you can talk directly with him and say, well, I guess what are you looking for within this? How does this character function within the kind of the story,
right?
And how do they function within the team?
Yeah.
And I would say probably a lot of those characters sort of do have some influences that come from established characters from the franchise, just because it just everything kind of works in that realm. So of course some of that's going to hopefully translate to what we're doing.
Is the show CG?
It is.
Completely.
Yeah, completely.
So
CG.
I mean, that's a big difference too. I mean, there's a huge difference between working 2D and 3D for sure, good and bad. But I mean, camera wise, you can do anything you want.
Yeah.
The bad thing is you can do anything you want.
Exactly. And you've got a budget.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, before I worked at Marvel, I worked on How to Train Your Dragon at DreamWorks. And when we were doing the show, one of the directors, my director, wanted to do everything like the movie. He's like, I want to do tracking shots. I want to do, all. So about halfway through the production, we had a big meeting, and they're like, all that stuff, those tracking shots, lunch, take those out. Don't do those.
We're broke.
So much. Yeah, we're broke. They told us that they're like, it's render time. They're like, we don't physically have the computers and the time necessary and money to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we were told to do it like a 2D cartoon.
Oh, okay.
It's like, you 2D guys, like, you should be able to get that really well. Like, that should be no problem for you guys, right? We're like, yeah, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So, so we, that's a big difference though. Like, going back to Marvel from How to Train Your Dragon was difficult in the sense that I was so used to doing, these cinematic shots, and you're able to pull, like, you could do an action shot of Toothless flying over, Burke or whatever, and, have a big dragon fight, and you really, at those moments, the action moments, you could really play up. They wanted us to, but the stuff with, so coming to Marvel, I remember it was a little bit of an adjustment to go back to working on 2D stuff again, because like my head was so wrapped that I could move the camera wherever I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And I could rotate around things and, keep the camera fluid. And you can't do that in 2D animation. Everything's, it's shot, cut, shot.
Sure.
God bless you if you try to do a rotating. I have students sometimes that want to do that. Hey, let's have the camera rotate completely around this 2D character. And it's like, I don't think you want to do that.
Who knows what you're going to get back?
Probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
Unless you're animating it yourself. Not a good idea.
But I mean, even within that, thinking about how to be smart and economical when you're and get sort of a similar effect.
Right. I got my cat. She's joining us now. This is Ellie.
Right.
Hi. She's going to ask the really tough questions. She's going to. So now's when we get to the really tough questions, Leo. So Ellie wants to know. So, but yeah, dude, like it's a totally different, there's got to be, I would think for yourself, like coming off of Guardians and going on to a 3D show, there had to be some challenges that were inherent with that, right? You had to kind of say, okay, we can do this stuff, but we've got to be careful what we're doing. Yet you can't restrain people and tell them, don't be so restrained, right?
Yeah, I mean, sure. You have a franchise to honor. You want to be like, okay, sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Totally go for it. And then probably from that, we sort of pull back when we find out sort of what our limitations are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what do you find the most enjoyable part of the job now, buddy? When it's, I mean, we had such a good time on Guardians. I'm just kind of curious, like, because you have a lot of the Marvel people over there with you.
Yeah. I grabbed a lot of folks when they came available because we have the fortune of working with a lot of really talented people.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
How's James?
James is great.
Good.
James is
Tell him
great.
I said
Yeah,
hi.
I will. Yeah, he's good. He's good.
Good.
Yeah. James,
So anyway,
Mike is there. I mean, I don't want to bore people with a bunch of names, but yeah.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey man, this is free. Don't worry about it. Like,
okay.
they get what they pay for.
Well, I'm not even sure what I'm looking at because I'm seeing all these people up the top here, and I don't know if I'm hogging all the time.
Well, Alex is the director I'm working with at Titmouse. We're working on a show called QForce. And Alex, why don't you jump on it? You can tell everybody it's a good way to get introduced.
Let Alex talk some.
All right, I'll let Alex talk a little bit.
I mean, I was enjoying listening too, but yeah, so we're making, and Jeff and Megan are also on our team. And it's an LGBT, like, secret agent, sort of like a gay James Bond kind of show. It's action comedy. It's by the guy, he wrote on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Broad City, and a bunch of other stuff.
Gabe is he still a writer for Brooklyn Nine-Nine? Do you know?
I'm assuming not, just because of the show, since he's, I think, technically the showrunner, along with Sean Hayes, who was in Will and Grace.
He is the main voice.
Yeah.
Main guy. So he's our hero.
Yeah. It's really fun. It's really funny. We get to draw penises and boobs and like whatever. It is
kid friendly. Kid friendly.
Dave, I don't know if you've ever seen like my other stuff, but it's my personal work is very, very queer.
Yeah, you told me. It's good. It's great, dude. Like,
it's pretty wacky and
go nuts. You know what, Alex? It's perfectly fine. Like that, everybody here is like, that's great. So, I can't wait to see the stuff you have and what so everybody will be in for a treat for stuff.
I hope so.
Yeah. So, but you worked on Bojack too. You want to talk a little bit about Bojack?
Sure. Yeah. I was assistant director on the last season. I want to say I did 3 episodes.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone's... Oh, Matt Lynchinger is here. He and I went to school together.
Hi, Matt. All right. See, he knew you were a special guest, so he was showing up.
Oh, my goodness.
So Jeff just checked out. He clicked off his video. There he is.
Jeff hates me.
Yeah, Jeff's one of the board artists on the show, too. So, Jeff, you want anything you want to chime in? Like you, Megan, if you want to chime in a little bit, you guys can talk, feel free.
No, yeah, it's a great show, and it's fun actually getting in from the ground floor. I think it's like, just we're so free to do a lot of stuff, you know, a lot of world building and character building, and working with Alex is really cool because he kind of lets our imaginations go, and yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, Jeff did the first sex scene of the show,
Woo!
and
He's a superstar. They loved what he did. He did a great job. He did a great job. So
It
Yeah,
was a lot of
it's-
fun. Yeah.
so
what in what universe? Like, did you ever think that you'd be able to do something like that one day?
Absolutely not, unless, you know, I got a job in porno again.
That's where I got my start.
yeah, there you go. Well, who
When
did?
I was in
Alex?
college.
Who hasn't? Who hasn't? That's
Yeah, when I was in college, that was
Leo, you got your start there too, right? Porno.
Spill
You
your
know,
beans.
and then in animation, it was like after that, it was like where else can you go? So it was like animation. It's a natural.
Yeah, nobody has to see me anymore.
All
They've seen it all.
aging porn stars go to animation.
Doing stand-up comedy is exactly like doing porno. So
Kimbro, it's
Do you do
Kimbro.
naked stand-up comedy too?
It's
yeah,
no Kimbro. Kimbro is like my sidekick on some of this stuff when we do these. So tell everybody who you are if they don't know who you are, Kimbro, because you're awesome.
I'm a stand-up comic for 30 years, and I write, direct, and produce short films, and I host comedy festivals and film festivals and open mics. And I just did the 48-hour film challenge with 15 actors, trying to shoot them all from Zoom, and that was very
Oh,
challenging.
whoa.
It's crazy. And yeah, I'm basically all things comedy head to toe. And I love working with Dave, and we're putting together how to make your pitch funnier. How to use humor to make your pitch more exciting is what Dave and I are working on.
That's right. Kimbro's gonna. What happens when you bomb in your pitch? So Leo, when I went in there and pitched shit to you, and you're like, yeah, I don't know, Dave. If I had taken that class, you would have been like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, would have helped, Dave. Would have helped.
I just draw a butt and people laugh.
There you go. See, I didn't do enough of that either, Leo. Didn't do enough of that in there either.
Yeah, I
Or
showed my
butts.
butt. I showed my butt in stand up, and people laughed. So
There you go. So,
Did they laugh at your butt though? Because that is
or
kind
with
of,
your butt. Did
I'm a
they-
comedian.
right.
We don't care. Just so we get the laugh. Laugh
There you
at
go.
me, for me, with me. It doesn't matter. We just want the laugh.
There you go. So that's right. That's right. Well, Kimbro, it's nice that you're here. So you chime in whenever you want, buddy, if you have a question you want to ask. So so here's the common denominator with Leo and Alex. We're doing action. Like, you know, action shows are, you know, even if you're doing a comedy action show, and actually QForce is still pretty straightforward. The designs are really nice, Leo. They're really cool on the show.
Cool.
And you know, it's definitely straightforward. Like, right, Alex? Like, we want to do funny shit.
well, I would say it's more gay forward than straightforward, but yes.
Well, you're right. You're right. That's true. I'm sorry. Forgive me for my. So, but the show is you know, it's actiony. It's not, you know, we're not trying to do you know, there's a lot of comedy in it and gay sex, but aside from that, it's like Batman. It's just like doing Batman.
Yeah, like Cowboy Bebop even. Like we're referring to Cowboy Bebop, and I would argue that there might be some gay sex in Batman.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
You're the ex. I will trust your judgment on that call. You're right, actually, buddy. Like, him and Robin are probably, you know, I'm sure there's some lovely moments, tender moments between the two of them that we, you know. So, but
I'm not a scientist. I don't know for sure.
so, but you know, there's a lot of similarities in the sense of like treating action stuff as action. And it's like at Marvel, we had, you know, we certainly had moments where you were trying to play comedy up, you know, just like we're doing on QForce, Alex. So we're trying to treat everything, you know, So, you had those moments of that stuff, and I think that, you coming from Bojack, it's an interesting thing to me because I'm not versed in that world at all. Like I like Bojack, but it's definitely a much, it's there's a lot more subtlety to that show, and it's a lot more, you're hitting definitely more subtle notes than you are with sometimes with just a broader comedy.
Right.
And so when you guys were doing Bojack, and even Jeff and Megan can speak to this, like what were you what were you what would you say are the differences between QForce and Bojack in the sense of not so much action, but in the sense of like if you were a board artist, let's just I came from QForce and I was applying for a job on Bojack. What would you say are the things that you'd be like, Dave, like this would work, but this won't work? Is there anything you can answer with that?
Well, I mean, definitely like just the complexity of what we're able to do with the shots, because Bojack is very sitcom style. So it's like a lot of the scenes that we would do is just one background that we get to work with. So we don't get to do a bunch of cool angles or anything. And it's not even it's more about the subtle acting. And I feel like with QForce, we get to do a lot more cool stuff with like action and with like composition to tell the story and hit those beats better. Of course, there's going to be subtle acting in QForce as well. It's just, it's like comparing Seinfeld to Cowboy Bebop or James Bond. It's like, it's like it's a different beast for sure.
Yeah.
Before Bojack, I was on Tuca and Birdie, which is basically if Bojack and SpongeBob made a baby.
That would
way more wacky than Bojack.
Yeah, I really admire people that can that are good with like the subtle comedy and being able to kind of hit those beats, because a lot of times in action it's harder for whatever reason. Guys want to do all these cool action sequences, but when it comes to like building a joke, paying a joke off, having some subtlety, it seems like some people really struggle with that. And I think that I've always kind of tried to believe that the people that are the best storyboard artists are usually the best actors, or the people who can really pull off stuff out. Do you agree with that too, Leo? Do you kind of when you're looking at boards for acting, it's like you get some great action sequences, but sometimes I think that what separates people are the people that can do like a great action sequence and you have some really nice acting in there. And,
especially for an action show, definitely acting it can be quite difficult. A lot of times I know when I'm going over stuff or like locking an episode, I prefer in some ways to do the action sequences just because I can sit down, bust out an action sequence, but when you have to actually process the acting, I guess in some ways it can be, like you said, there's just a lot of subtlety, timing. It just seems to be, they can actually, for a lot of artists, and myself being one of them, it can be a bit more difficult to actually pull off than doing some, crazy fight sequence or something like that.
Yeah. Sometimes there's like the subtlety. Sometimes the subtle sequences are the ones that are the hardest to pull off, like the scenes that really have to have some kind of resonance to them. You can do a big car chase and all this stuff, but sometimes when you're locked in there and you're trying to like, okay, what's the nuance of this scene? It's hard sometimes to kind of get all that to get it across effectively.
Sure.
Yeah. I always admire good acting in boards. I think it's important.
It's like Alex keeps bringing up Bebop, and that's one of the pinnacles of probably has not only those incredible action sequences, but also has that subtle acting, and it's just a very thoughtful production. Yeah.
Yes. And I couldn't agree more with that assessment. You guys, Alex, on BoJack, you guys were, it's, you had, like, BoJack is interesting because it was a broad comedy when it first started, kind of very biting satirical comedy, but it kind of got pretty dark and pretty drama filled towards the end. For those seasons. So you guys were doing more drama than you were comedy probably in a lot of that stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was still, there were always moments in the show though where it would get super dark, and then there'd be like a moment where it's like, don't forget this is a cartoon, and they'd have like some animal pun in the background or something.
Yeah.
So that was nice because the majority of us on that show are actually really like funny people. So it was nice to like still be able to slip in some funny moments, and because I feel like if it's just sad and there's just drama all the time, it doesn't really mean anything if you don't like enjoy being around the characters and everything. And I can even recall some of like the hardest, saddest moments of my life also like had really hilarious parts too. And I think that's why a lot of people that do comedy can do drama really, really well, because they know how to play with the audience and get them to feel stuff and get them to like them. And you have to have people like you if they're going to like feel with you and feel for you.
Yeah. I agree. I agree completely. I think it's a very good point. Like, when you're boarding, I think timing, comedy and everything, really, timing is everything. Like the timing plays such a big part of all of that stuff that you're, if you're not good at timing, you're not going to be good at, doing either comedy or drama, because it's all about those moments and, whether you're going fast or slow or, when to hold on things and how to do that. So it's a very, really important process to be able to know what you're doing for sure. So, well, I'm going to ask you guys, this is usually the $1 million question everybody wants to know. So I'll start with you first, Leo. What do you look for if you're hiring board people? What are some of the things that you're looking for in a board person?
Well, let's see. It sort of depends. I mean, if I'm looking at people who are we talking about people trying to break in or people who have done productions or?
That's an interesting, let's tackle both.
Okay.
Start off with the person who's brand new coming in.
The person who's brand new, I tend to probably look for me personally, I probably tend to look for stuff that's unique. I mean, there's the basics, you want a good sense of composition and physiology and stuff like that, especially for action shows. But I would say beyond that, I kind of I interviewed a bunch of folks for, we were doing kind of a storyboard, not an internship, I wouldn't say. I'd call it I don't even know what the word would be. But basically, we hired somebody and paid them on crew that was fresh out of school, and I think in that case, the person that I ended up going with had a really unique, I would say, approach, and also very strong acting, probably beyond their ability to do the action stuff.
Yeah, I
would say would be that their acting moments that they presented within their storyboards was just really, the acting was very strong. I think that's probably king on top of everything else, is probably what I was looking for. But there's so many good people out there, that I guess within that, I was just sort of looking for somebody who, again, had just that little extra, little unique, I don't even know what to call it, just that something just spoke to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's tough because, again, I mean, I probably looked at 30 completely qualified, amazing artists.
Right.
So,
but you found something that maybe you were like, hey, this person has a unique voice that would fit the style of the show that we're working on, something that you were looking for that personally, in a board artist. I mean, I think it's the same thing for myself. If you're looking for a board person as a director, you're looking for somebody who's going to be able to convey your casting, right? It's like you want the guys who are good at acting. You want the people that are good at, at action stuff. And those are usually the sequences that they get launched onto, or like, hey, you're really good with acting, so you're going to cover this stuff. You're good with comedy, we're going to have you kind of do these beats. And the action stuff's going to go to this person or that person. So I think, right? Am I right about that?
Oh, absolutely. I was just thinking about a couple of the things though within that, and I think that was just the initial pass when I was looking at their work, and I looked at their when I was looking at resumes, it was this particular individual, and that person's at Netflix right now. He's moved on. He's great, really, really talented young man. He had retail experience. I think he'd worked at, some clothing store or something like that. And I thought, this is somebody who can deal, with a crew, who's dealt with all kinds of personalities probably. And he had that job for quite a while. And, and I always I'm always looking for, dynamics even within a crew, like personality wise.
I always
like
tell
you said,
people,
I'm kind of you cast for not only the show, but you cast for the crew, because I've had, we've probably all worked with really amazing people that maybe aren't personality wise. So
absolutely.
So
absolutely.
it helps
absolutely.
when you have somebody who's able to also has a sort of you just go, well, this person would be a good fit for the crew. They bring not only a professional, sorry about that, a skill dynamic to your production, but also just a personality dynamic. You want to surround yourself with people that you are comfortable. I mean, you want to be around.
Well, I think Marvel did that better than any. They were very good at casting, aside from maybe one or two people. But
be nice.
But aside from that, and boy did they pick the wrong people for some of that. But aside from that, I mean, Guardians was
I want that hot goss. Come on.
How wide is this broadcast?
We're not going to name names, but
okay.
But let's just suffice it to say, there were people that were extremely talented who could draw really, really well. Right, Leo? You'd agree?
Sure.
But they were complete ass. They were boobs. They were complete jackasses, and they weren't professional. They weren't professional.
Well, we'll just there. I mean, I don't want to go too deep into it, but there's some people that, if they were just doing their own thing, on their own project, awesome. I mean, talent-wise, top notch.
Yeah,
no doubt about it. Can't deny it. But we work in an industry where it takes a lot of people to actually produce the end product. So, being a decent human being and being able to interact with people reasonably is it's an important aspect of the job.
I can honestly say, out of all the years that I've worked in studios that I've worked at, Guardians was right up there as one of the top shows, and it was that I ever worked on because of the people that were on it, and in terms of production and enjoying the people you worked with, you and Sean did an amazing job of like having really, like, you know, everybody on the crew worked together, everybody got along. There was no real drama or friction on the shows that we saw. I mean, you know, maybe you had fires to put out, but you know, for the most part, it was, but for the most part, you know, it was an enjoyable production, and it was mainly because of you, buddy. Like working, I always think that comes from the head down. You know, when you're working with people that are good people, that always makes things enjoyable. And you're, you know, for anybody listening, and you know, we'll put this on the World Wide Web in a week or so for more people to look at, all the millions of followers to look at. But it's really strong advice. Like, you want to be a good person and fit in on a crew. And that's as important as being talented. I think if you're working on an in-house crew, you have to work with people. Like, that's, having interpersonal skills are such a vital thing. So if you're difficult and, you know, or a diva in the sense that, you know, you get notes and you're like, you know, upset about whatever you're getting, those aren't good things. Like, those are things, you know, that people don't want in a production and on a production, because everybody has to work together. And when you're working with difficult people, it makes things uncomfortable and weird. So I think that that's a very valid point, you know, for sure. Now let's talk about, like, you're talking about brand new people. What about people that have experience? What are you looking for? Oh, Ellie, I'm gonna let my cat out the door real quick, and then I'll be right back.
Alex, what are we supposed to do?
Scream, panic.
Okay.
Oh my God, he's back. Thank God.
Okay. Yeah, I figured you guys were talking about me while I was gone. That's okay.
Talking some shit.
Talk some shit. Whoa, that Dave's an asshole.
It's really ironic that he thinks you should be fun to work with.
Oh, I never said that. I never said that. So, but yeah, it's you know, right? I mean, Alex, you agree too. I mean, right? When you're working in-house, you don't want assholes. You want to work with good people.
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, yes, I agree.
So, okay. So,
wait, am
I mean, I want to hear somebody say, I would like to hear somebody say, no, absolutely. I love working with assholes. What do you mean? My favorite part of the job.
I'm trying so hard to make a really inappropriate joke. So I'm just gonna.
An inappropriate joke?
Never mind.
Go ahead.
Wait, is Leo still answering his?
Leo, go ahead and answer. Well, go ahead.
No. All Alex.
He wants to hear the joke.
I defer.
Oh no, it's fine. It's over.
Okay.
So what I want in people is good attitude, of course, able to take notes, and it's not personal. It's just what's best for the show. And I really like when they're aware of, like, when they have like something specific that they can bring to the table. Like, there are some people that are really, really good at, you know, certain types of comedy. There's some people that are really good at more slower, like sad scenes. There's some people that are really, really good at action. And no one's the same, which is great, because then if you're tapped into what that person is good at, you can utilize them better and make sure that they're happy as well. What else? Smell good.
Bathing hygiene is an important thing, and surprisingly, some people don't get that.
I had something else that was really good, but my brain is farting.
Wait, all right, you think about it. So we have somebody saying, if retail helped their art portfolio, they've been working customer service during fires, landslides, dam breaks, horse stampedes, and helicopter rescue. So, Leo, this is your person right here.
Yeah, I'm liking it.
Hired.
I do a bit of freelance here and there. Been a productive last year, but not the year before that. And my day job, my regular paycheck, is as an assistant to a wild park. So that's how I get all those natural disasters.
Okay.
There you go.
I'll start putting it on my portfolio as can hold pressure while on fire.
Great.
Well, that's an important skill. I mean, sometimes, we're putting out fires all the time, right?
Yeah, sometimes I have a customer that I tell them we're on fire, $7, please. And they say, how on fire are you? I point to the big red glowing mountain behind me. And they say, okay, I'll try it. They come back 40 minutes later saying, no, you're too on fire. And then they ask for a refund.
Are you fucking kidding me? That's crazy.
That was my 4th of July this last year.
Absolutely. Wow, that's exciting.
Alex is impressed.
And that was 2 hours after an earthquake hit, by the way. But I'm pretty sure we all had that earthquake.
Did you guys feel that last night?
And did you have people demanding, like I worked in retail and it was a Sam's Club, and I had a guy come up to me. I worked for customer service for about 5 minutes. My other job didn't involve that, but I had a guy come up. I'm not making this up. He brought back a pair of sneakers that had holes in them, grass stained out the wazoo. Had to be, I don't even think he bought them at our store, and he wanted his money back. He didn't have a receipt or anything. So after I was done laughing, I told the guy, get the hell out of here. So he went over to my boss and was like, he's like, I demand you talk to yours. So I went over to my boss. He's like, yeah, give him his money. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me.
I love that. I love that he had the nerve.
And but my boss said the customer's always right. I'm like, no, the customer's not always right. And that guy's going to tell every one of his friends to bring back they're a dirty underwear and tell us that we have to take the shit back. It's like, what the hell's wrong with you, man? Oh, man. So anyway,
I was at a show and a drunk heckler wanted his money back from the show.
Yeah.
And the bouncers threw him through the door head first into the parking lot.
always fun walking by a bar just as the bouncer gets
it literally looked like a movie scene.
And he felt that in the morning.
Yes, probably. So all right. So all right. So anyway, let's see here. I want to see if there's any questions for you guys. Anybody on the chat want to ask Leo? Because I don't want to keep Leo for forever and a day over here. Man's got a life that he's living life large.
I don't have a life, so I'll be here.
Alex is going to be here for a while because he doesn't. Yes, so that was what I was trying to say nicely. I knew you told me you can talk all night, so I figure that's so. We'll and when we get to the late night section of the show, that's when you can we'll
the
talk
jokes go around.
Yeah, we'll talk dick jokes. It'll be great. It'll be right now we're saving it for the kids. If there's any kids in the audience.
No, the kids are gonna love it.
This is rated. This is the PG-13 section of the show. So this is so anybody have any questions for Leo about Fast and Furious, about Guardians of the Galaxy? Is there anybody in the chats that wanna chime in with anything? Alex, do you have any questions for Leo? I guess not.
Thank you. I feel like I do.
I guess that we covered everything.
Have you ever done comedy, or would you want to?
Comedy. Yeah, I have done some comedy. Let's see. I think when I first started, I actually started in I don't know. It's funny if you've worked long enough, and you probably had the privilege of kind of working the gamut of productions. And I started out in like basically preschool shows, and then from there sort of ended up at Cartoon Network for a while. So I worked on
Tron. You were on Tron.
Oh yeah, Disney. Yeah, but I think at Cartoon Network I worked on. Let's see. shorts program, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends.
Oh, wow.
Then McCracken did the Powerpuff Girls kind of special that he had done. Just a few shows at Cartoon Network. So that was a lot of fun. I loved that. But as far as and I worked on a couple of Adult Swim things too, just here and there.
You were you primarily animating at that time, Leo? Were you doing animation and effects stuff? Was that your job at that point?
Yeah, I was doing some animation, primarily animation, technical direction. Then I did some, I was storyboarding, just kind of everything.
Well, let me ask you this question. What do you, coming from the background that you did as an animator, how do you feel that helped you like in your job today? Like you bring that experience into the work that you do. So like maybe that's something to touch on a little bit. How did your experience as an animator help, with
I think initially my whole thought process was I wanted to keep working no matter kind of what happened. I needed a job.
I needed a job.
I had a job, man. Wonderful bills that came along with my education.
I can animate that scene, sure.
Yeah, why not?
Oh yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, as a matter of fact, that's how my first job in animation kind of came about. Was
just say yes, I can do this thing.
Exactly.
I don't know how to do.
That's right.
I've lied. Honestly, like I've lied about programs that I didn't know. Like
yes, I absolutely agree.
Absolutely. Like I can learn it.
Yeah.
But,
hey kids, here's a big piece of advice.
Yeah.
Professional animators lie.
No. Well, we don't do that anymore, but to initially just get that initial push into the workplace, if you think you can do it, like I can remember the very first job in animation I ever had, I had sent in my reel, and I had primarily done kind of stop motion. Animation was kind of
wow.
I was doing at the time. Sent in my reel, and they go, yeah, this is great and everything, but After Effects. And at the time, I did not know After Effects, but I said, oh, yeah, sure. And they said, well, can you come in tomorrow and do this test? And I said, I can't make it tomorrow, but if you give me until Monday, I'll be there.
Tutorial.
Just about time. I'm sure this was at the time of YouTube tutorials, right?
This is long before YouTube.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I was in trouble.
Yeah. Oh, we do have some questions in here that are being typed up.
Oh, we got questions. Yes.
People are wondering if you guys get to use 3D models in boards and stuff.
Yes.
Are you using SketchUp, Leo? What are you using for the cars?
Primarily, we're actually using we're utilizing Maya.
Oh, are you? Well,
so we're kind of going back and forth. I mean, yes, SketchUp is there, but for the most part, we're using Maya. So
the board artists, do they all have Maya? Are they able?
Yes, we do. Yeah. Which is
wow.
sort of, kind of unique to this production. We certainly didn't have it on Guardians.
No.
But,
we didn't have much on Guardians, but
just
our own two hands. I'm kidding. I'm joking. So no, actually, that's not true. Guardians, I shouldn't say that. I'm actually doing a huge disservice. Like Guardians was the only show that we used SketchUp, and we were really, that was a big thing. You brought Joe in, and Joe, did all of those beautiful SketchUp models and everything that had all that stuff. Oh God, that was one of the easiest. I always tell people, like, if you can't afford Maya, learn SketchUp. Like, get SketchUp and use that damn program because it's
Blender now, of course.
Blender. I find Blender to be a little harder for me. I'm not a gamer, so it's a little counterintuitive for me. Like, I'm always kind of
free is a good motivator, Dave.
Yeah, I know. But I can use it. I actually, there's a few, like Google actually has a program as well. It's very much like Blender. Like you can, and it's like a nice combination because you can actually take, it's like you can explode the image, so you can actually take things out and move them, Okay. So it's nice for that. I don't know if you can do that in Blender. Can you take stuff out in Blender? Can you hide elements in Blender?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty robust program.
Yeah, I mean, like anything, it's like, if you need to use it, you figure it out pretty quickly.
Sure.
It's like, We used it on Guardians after you left for a little while.
Okay.
And you know, and a couple of the board guys, it wasn't Grace, it was who was the other guy, the kid he's really good. I forget his name now.
Eric Panetta?
No,
Ed
not
Rosso?
Eric. No, not those guys. I'm talking. He came on late. He was a Spider-Man person that came on. He left and he went to Warner's. I forget his name. Great guy. But anyway, he was showing me some of the Blender stuff. He was showing, you know, he was the first person that kind of said, hey, you can do this in Blender. And it's like, oh, what's that? So, you know, and so we used it for about 6 episodes or so.
Okay.
Towards the tail end when you were gone. That was,
I think one of the things that helps, of course, with in our particular production with our pipeline was we were able to provide board artists with like low polygon, you know, low polycount 3D models that we knew were going to translate to our final backgrounds. So our blocking, we knew that was going to be accurate. We weren't going to have to go in and revise that stuff when we got to that stage in the process. We knew everything that it kind of helped, I guess, production-wise, because we knew that the stuff was going to match up.
Well, let me ask you, because
animation.
The thing that I'm kind of dawning on me as we're talking, are you boarding traditionally with still drawing, or are you actually composing with Maya entirely?
No, we're using Storyboard Pro. I mean, that's kind of our main program that we're utilizing.
Okay.
But as far as like, but we do use the Maya models a lot of times just because we're doing that sort of, I don't know, extra level of camera movement and dynamics in our shots.
Yeah.
That we just kind of felt like for the speed of production, it was just, it would be to our benefit to have that sort of additional tool in Maya to be able to render backgrounds and stuff and then bring them into Storyboard Pro.
Yeah, somebody's asking if you draw over on top of the CG elements.
Correct, yeah.
Yes. So I was curious because, you know, I have friends that worked up at Lucas on Clone Wars, and they composed stuff in camera. Like they weren't drawing. They were literally, you know, using like Maya models to kind of build, but they weren't doing like superposed out stuff. It was more composing elements within the, you know, the elements of the shots, but that was how they worked, which I always thought, there's something about that I didn't like. I was like, yeah, you know, I get it, but at the same time, you know, but using Maya, you know, would be wonderful, you know, to be able to kind of pose out all the stuff with the cars and, you know, and be able to use those models and really utilize that stuff. And
it's incredibly helpful for sure. I mean, because at the end of the day, I mean, regardless of what the process is, you know, your final animation, it's just to help. It's a tool to get you to that next stage.
Yeah.
So whatever it takes.
All this stuff is tool. It's all tools. You know, it's like whatever makes it that you're able to, you know, to do the work is great. You know, that's how that. You know, that's what it's all about. It's speed. It's, you know, we're not doing this stuff for ourselves. We're doing it for, it's art is commerce, as I like to say. So,
and if it saves you some pencil mileage in the process, you know, instead of having to draw, let's say 12 frames of a vehicle.
Yeah. Somebody's asking if you're combining 2D with Maya 3D, where are the two combined? They're combined in Storyboard Pro.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. You bring the images over. Are you able to save them as like PNG files? Like what, is that what it is? PNG?
Yeah, usually we utilize them as PNG sequences. I mean, there are some times when we'll bring some of the lighter models directly into Storyboard Pro.
Yeah.
You know, as an OBJ or something like that. But the only problem is when you have to go in and actually revise those boards, it's not a lot of fun.
Yeah, that would be tough. Yeah, I could see where that would be difficult. It's probably
because
easier
the files
to
get kind of heavy.
Well, those files are super heavy. We tried doing that on Hulk way back, and I remember Dan Duncan and I pulled in. We thought we were going to be real clever and real creative, like we were going to be the badasses with this stuff. We pulled it in, and like we couldn't get it to work. I'm like, Dan, like, are you? He's like, oh, you got to do this, and you have to do that, and it's like, and then it would crash on us. We're like, yeah, let's just screen grab these.
Yeah. There's some folks that have mastered it, but even still within that, to revise those boards when you get to that stage can kind of be a pain in the butt. So I tend to prefer the screen grabs, but I mean, there's like, do you know, like, for instance, Shauna Mills? She's amazing.
I know the name. I don't know. I don't believe I've ever worked with her. Maybe I have. I don't recall. The name's familiar. Yeah, she's a board person. Board person, right?
Storyboard. She's top notch. Awesome. The way that she's able to utilize those CG assets directly in Storyboard Pro, and I mean, she's great. And actually, it's funny. She was working on Clone Wars, I believe, for a while.
Yeah, the name's familiar, so it's, you know, she probably came from Lucas or Warner's, I would think, you know, something that came from doing that stuff. Yeah.
Well, actually, she did some freelance on Guardians when we were.
Oh, maybe that's how I. Maybe that is how I know her then. Yeah. Okay. So, oh, I do remember her. Yes. She was kind of green at the time, though, right? A little green, and then. Or no, am I wrong? No,
she's got experience. Yeah.
Okay. That's the wrong person.
Yeah.
Now I'm sure that, you know, there was a lot of good stuff that came through Guardians. So we had some good people that were.
Yeah, some great artists. Yeah.
Yep, that were there for sure. So, yep. All right. Let's see here. Let's see if we can get another question or two in, and I'll let you go. If you're. Let's see here.
I'm fine. I'm fine right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like I don't want to hog this. Alex has a lot of input too, certainly.
Yeah. Well, Alex, that's, you know, Alex, what do you think about have you ever worked on
I'm sorry, Dave. When's your show coming out? Do you have a season up on Netflix yet, or?
No, it's been announced. But
okay.
No images. There's no cast reveal besides Sean Hayes. There's no nothing. But
okay.
Yeah, if you want to read like the snippet about it, just type in QForce. But yeah, there's nothing out yet.
It should be a really nice looking show, though. Like, it's like I said, the designs that, you know, are really, really nice. They're really nice designs. So
yeah, they're really cute.
And the show's really funny. The show is actually is really funny, and you know, aside from me, they have some really good people working on it. So, so so it should be good. You know, and they can always revise that, Leo. They can always, you know, it's like Frank said, like, you know, I'll keep people employed. That was, so yeah, but you know, it's, there are some really good people working on the show. Like, do you know Jeanette Marino King?
I don't.
No, she's a president of the union actually right now, but she's one of the directors as well.
I should know her then.
And she's very good. You know, she has good sensibilities, good comedic. You know, she came from like Disenchanted, and she did a lot of bento shows. So she has a good sense of comedy. Joshua, there's another director, Josh Tabak.
Yeah, he just came from DreamWorks. I think he was on the Spirit show last.
Okay. So I don't know if you know him or not, but he's really good. The stuff they're doing is really, like, it should be a great looking show. Like when the whole thing comes out, it should be a great looking show.
It better
be. We're just literally in the very beginning stages of doing it.
Okay. So you got designs are all set and all that stuff's been done, and
it's not set, but I mean the style. The style is set. The style is set, but I don't. But you know, we're still like, you know how that is. Like, you're still not quite there yet with all the final models and all that stuff.
Sure,
but we're getting there. Getting there. Yeah. So, all right, Alex, take it away. So so let's talk about you know, with Maya and 3D models and moving them around for you. How do you feel about that?
I don't want to go near Maya. My brain likes to draw, and I don't understand. Like, I'm kind of like stupid.
Yeah.
So I can't, like, Maya's really hard for me.
Yeah.
Someone.
Somebody wants to know if we're responsible for making the models for the boards. No,
No.
usually not. Usually
But
not.
I think SketchUp would probably be easy for me. I've never really
SketchUp's
had
easy.
to use that stuff.
Yeah, I'll show you stuff in SketchUp is great. SketchUp's easy.
I have animated in Maya before, but like it's just all gone. It's been so long.
Kimbro, how do you feel about animating in Maya for your stand-up? Any problems with that? Oh, there he is.
For stand-up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever animated? Have you ever used Maya for your stand-up?
Yeah, all the time, every day.
What's your name? Right?
That's why my
Maya
jokes.
who?
I get the 3D laugh because I got Maya down to a science.
There you go. Maya who? That's what you asked. Like who?
Yeah.
Maya Rudolph? Sure. So let's see. Can you make many creative decisions with stuff like Guardians of the Galaxy? Or does Marvel micromanage it? All right, Leo, go ahead.
We're getting political now.
Yeah.
By the time we usually get stuff, a lot of that type of those discussions have been sort of vetted between the creative team and the writing team. Like a lot of that stuff has already been worked out.
Right.
So we probably have to worry less about that when we're at actually storyboarding, actually producing the animation.
We run into stuff like, what was that? What the hell did I want to put in the board? And you said we couldn't do it because it was an existing, or it was what the hell was it? It was a picture of, I was like, hey, we should put a picture up of like, oh God, I don't know who it was. It was a Marvel character, but you were like, yeah,
Sure.
we shouldn't do that. Remember? Vaguely, I don't even remember it, but it was like stuff like that.
Well,
those are the things that we run into.
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to run into some kind of, potentially run into some standard and practice issue, or, there's certain kind of rules that are in place with regards to anything that could be interpreted to being being interpreted as a commercial presented to kids or something like that. We have to be
right.
They're super sensitive about, like, you can't be you can't throw a Coca-Cola can in the middle of a episode as some kind of endorsement or something like that.
Yeah, product.
What about Sprite?
Yeah, that's okay. Surprisingly, that's okay.
Right, Dr. Pepper, we're cool.
Yeah, Dr. Pepper's perfect.
Cola.
That's great. I would put that in all the time. Yeah, it's but it was more stuff like it was never, like Leo said, like it was always those issues were already resolved long before we got the script. We were just the guys making the show at that point. We were like, make this. And, we weren't putting in huge story decisions or anything like that. That wasn't.
No. Most of that stuff had been figured out. So, there's always a level, there's creativity because you're taking that script and you have to interpret it into what is then going to appear on screen. So certainly there you have a lot of creativity.
Somebody asked a good question. How loose do you draw for the 3D stuff? Or does it have to be tight really on model?
It sort of varies amongst the artists. I think we tend to allow the stuff to be pretty loose. Especially a lot of times, depending on the way our board schedule works, in order to get through the pages that you need to get through, you can be fairly loose. It has to be tight enough. You have to, of course, be able to identify who the characters are.
Their sizes are correct. That's a big one.
Yeah, scale, acting, whatever the scene is really like about. If it's an acting moment, well, you better have faces on your characters. I don't want to have to see a cross hatch for eyes and a mouth. That's not going to work. But
yeah. Somebody's asking, does that go for portfolios as well? And I think, like, go ahead. Right? I would think, again, it's like, I think wouldn't you agree, Leo? Like, it's a matter of, like you said, there's something about the work. Like, it can be loose and sketchy, but if it has enough tightness to it and enough, and the acting is really good and the action stuff, whatever it is that you're looking for, you can forgive the drawing not being like a comic book. You're not doing comic books.
Oh, certainly. And that's a lot of times, I'll see stuff that's incredibly clean, which is great. but as far as when you're actually doing the day-to-day in production, it's just not, it's really, I would say, not feasible for you to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And perform at a level as far as you couldn't do 9 pages in 8 or 9 pages in 6 weeks and perfectly shade everything.
Right.
And I mean, if you can, hey, I'm bowing down to you.
Yeah.
But as far as getting all the acting in there and the stuff that we really care about that then needs to translate to the final product, I'm not worried about how you're shading characters and stuff like that. I'm worried about composition, acting,
clarity.
Clarity. It's all, that's really important, is the clarity.
Yeah.
Less about, I mean, certainly I don't want to see, an arm sticking out of the side of a person's head unless that's the character design, but clarity. Yeah. You got to sell that moment. So if it's about the car, that scene, then you should have some cool car action. If it's about a interaction between characters, then they should have faces, and it's.
So this is a question for both of you, for Alex, you too. It says, how often do you find your finished boards look different from your initial conception? I find often I make changes to my shot choices or staging as I go, both in the beginning and the later stages.
Sorry, I have to read it myself.
Basically, it comes from Stephanie, and she's just saying that, how much do you change from your initial thumbnail pass, probably, or rough pass, to the final cleans, and I mean, I know for myself it changes quite considerably from that, and it depends on the notes that you get too from your directors and things like that. Things change, can change considerably.
Yeah, usually a ton for me. There was a couple times on Tuca and Birdie specifically, though, when some of my thumbs, they just were like, okay, we'll take it. And that was it. And I got no notes, but it was like a magical kind of scenario because that show was very much what my sensibilities were. But no, most of the time it's like, I mean, your thumbs can be like stick figures, no details. And then sometimes you just don't know how it's going to feel until you hit that play button. And then it's like, oh, well, I can, put this character here instead, or, so it always looks very different to me.
Yeah. Leo, how about you?
I completely agree. I mean, thumbnailing, especially when it's such a small investment that you might as well sort of, that's where I do the majority of my working, just kind of things out. I might look at a page and spend 20 minutes just literally doing these tiny little thumbs and kind of making sure that all works before actually I'm going to invest any real time in it. Because you do something super rough, then it's not a big deal. You're not married to it. You can just delete it and start over or whatever. And you're not investing so much in it that you can't just throw it away. Before you fall in love with the stuff, you better make sure that it works.
Well, I think I always tell people, like, the worst thing to do is draw really super tight and whatever thumbnails, because you
have to kill your babies.
Because I mean, right. And so I mean, if people are changing stuff and you've put all this time into a drawing, you're more upset because you're changing the drawing, not fixing the story point. And that's back-asswards. It should be the other way, the hell with the drawing.
Yeah, because we're not illustrators when we're boarding, it's like.
Yeah, it's not comics. It's not meant for comics. It's meant for, it's meant for us to see, and the studios, it's not meant for the general public to look at. So it's not nobody's looking at the boards as a final piece. So it's, and God bless everybody that draws, super tight and well and everything. Like, but that's, you know, as long as you're on model and enough and you're getting the size correct. But you know, it's more about acting and clarity and storytelling, and how do you evoke emotion in a scene, you know, or get a laugh, or, you know, make somebody feel sad or cry or whatever. That's far more important than how well drawn it is.
No, I would also, though, probably include that if you can find a way to draw simply and yet still make it aesthetically pleasing, it always helps to be able to sell it to that next level of.
It does. Shorthand is
short.
Yep, shorthand is a big, you know. I mean, you shouldn't lie to anybody and tell them that drawing isn't important. You know, you have it's like I had a guy. Brian, this guy's name is Brian Manolfi, and Brian is a director on Paradise PD. And this guy was like an assistant in his early career, animator with Chuck Jones. Like Chuck Jones brought him in basically as his right-hand man. Like, so the guy's super talented. And but somebody asked him like that question, like, how well do you have to draw? And he's like, look, you're working for the best of the best in this. You know, if you want a job in this industry, you are competing and working with the best of the best. So, you know, your skill level has to be consummate with those people. There has to be a certain level of draftsmanship that goes into your work. If not, you know, it's hard to get hired out here. It's not an easy thing to do. So, you know, I mean, but having said that, like, if you can't tell a story, you can be Michelangelo. And if you don't understand, you know, how cinema works and how film works, you're not going to stay hired for very long, at least doing storyboard work, because it's, you know,
you'll have to go paint a ceiling somewhere instead.
Yeah.
Have lead paint dripping in your face.
Yeah. So, all right. Somebody wants to know boards or animatics in portfolios.
Depends on the show, I would say. I mean, I tried out for Rick and Morty years ago, sent them an animatic, didn't even fucking look at it. They wanted a printable version of the boards. So you have to find that out. And some people want an animatic. I see most shows that are like, it seems like most shows that are like radio plays that you'll be boarding, which is most adult animation. It'll be an animatic, but if it's like a board driven show, it's usually boards, right? Would you guys say?
I think websites. Aren't you looking more at websites, Leo, and Instagram and stuff like that for people?
I don't know why I was thinking of testing, not portfolio. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to let Alex cover this just for 30 seconds. I'll be right back.
Okay, go ahead, buddy.
Pissing in a bottle. I'll be right back.
All right, buddy.
Wait, what did he say?
I think he was going to go piss in a bottle. He said, "No, I'm kidding."
I hope he has a toilet.
Yeah, I think hopefully he has one. I think he has one.
Or maybe that's just like his hobby.
Oh, could be. So,
okay, so in portfolios, I mean, I've never just had boards on portfolio, but I've only worked in adult animation.
Yeah.
So I've only had animatics. You can always ask too. Like,
well, you know, Alex,
trying
it's
out for a
actually
show.
Because I've been asking Leo that stuff. Like for, you know, Leo and I both come more from the action side of things. So from comedy, like, what do you recommend for somebody that would want to break into like a BoJack Horseman, or, you know, what do you recommend that they put in their portfolios and have in there?
I mean, I would have a mix of boards and animatics then. If you're able to. I think just having an internet presence in general is really helpful.
Yeah.
And really pay attention to what you are good at too, and like really exploit that. And I also wouldn't worry so much about being able, I mean, you do want to be able to adapt to different shows, but I think being able to stand out on your own is really helpful, which seems counterintuitive because it's like people want to hire people that can adapt to their show and can do any style and all that stuff. But if you have something really specific that makes you unique and special, I feel like just like amplify that, because then it's like people will look at you rather than just posting a bunch of generic things that you think you should be doing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I was trained by Disney animators, and my sensibilities are not Disney at all. And at the time I was trying to be more like what I thought I should be since I was learning from them. And I was really unhappy, and my stuff just looked awful. Like it was boring. It had no life to it. So like, you really want to tap into not so much what you feel like you should be passionate about, but things that you actually enjoy. Like I love drawing really like fucked up, weird, naked things. And if you can believe it, has gotten me like so many things that I've wanted to do.
Yep.
And it's really niche, and it feels like scary because it's like, you know, can I show this to Disney? Can I send this to whoever? But I think it's good to stand out. I think it can only help you.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's, I think that there's my buddy, one of my best friends is one of the heads of story up at Pixar. And I've related this story a couple times to people, but you know, one of the things at Pixar's not interested in like Guardians of the Galaxy boards. Like, you know, if I show them that stuff and I want to work at Pixar, they're going to be like, we want to see what you just said, Alex. They want to see you. They want to see your, you know, how you interpret story in a personal way. And they always want personal projects. Like my buddy Kelsey told me that they look for, it's sketchbooks, a lot of sketchbooks, and they'll look at, you know, how you handle somebody looking sad, or how, you know, there's just different things that they look for that's your own personal interpretation. So I think that artists sometimes are afraid to be too personal in their work when they put stuff in. And I think that, you know, you kind of hit the nail on the head, because you're like, I worked on the things I wanted to work. I got the jobs I wanted to work.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, people always talk about, like, there was actually a question that was in here that was kind of related to this. It was like, should I put in like everything in my portfolio? And it's like, no, like focus on the things that you want to work on.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to get hired on a show that you don't really feel comfortable working on, that's not going to be a fun process for you. Having said that, getting in and kicking the door down and all of that kind of stuff, if you know, it is true. Like, sometimes you have to work on, if you get hired, a job is a job, experience, networking, all that kind of stuff. But, you know, as your career evolves, you should put more of yourself into your work, because that's the stuff that you're going to get hired on projects that you want to do.
Yeah. And there's so many different types of animation out right now. I mean, you can literally get any type of job that kind of fits you, really.
Well, I mean, Netflix has just been just a bastion of, you know, different things and styles. Just the fact that you have claws and you have, you know, and then you have, so, you know, something else that's, you know, that doesn't look anything like it. And then you have some claymation project that's on, you know, and it's you know, it's like it all has a home. There's a place for it. There's a fit for it, as well as the stuff that's produced from studios. And I think that that's a really, you know, there's so much, and why limit yourself to what you can work on? It's a much different time than, you know, even 10 years ago.
Yeah. And I mean, earlier, I think it was Leo or one of you guys said, hiring for a show is like hiring for a cast of characters in a way, right? And it's like, have you ever seen a show where all the characters are the same? It's like, no, there's like the spooky one, there's the funny one, there's like like the eccentric fat one, there's like, you know, there's all these different archetypes, and there's nothing wrong with like being one of those in real life.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we all are. We're all more complex than characters in a TV show, of course.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you are completely tapped into who you are, and you will find people that are like-minded and will want to hire you and want to work with you, right?
Right. And you know, and sometimes you want diversity on a crew, because you don't want everybody. My son plays hockey, and one of his coaches said something to me, and I think it applies to animation just as well. He talked about building a team. He was a coach, and he talked about building a team, and he's like, you don't want every kid being the same on a team or on any team. You want the kid that's a power hitter, the kid that's that's fast, and because you need that mix. It's a team. And I think it's the same thing in animation. I think that you have different people, and not just their skill sets, but also their personalities and what they like to do and what they bring to stuff. And it goes even past the do they get along and are they good people and all that stuff. I'm talking about like the mix of like somebody who likes being, that somebody is the silly guy and somebody is the really cerebral, person on the show. And I mean, not character wise, but I'm talking people, because I think you need that. Like you need to have sometimes those discussions and that interaction, and you bring that into the work itself. You bring that. I know on Guardians, Leo, it's a very, very tight knit crew. And I really believe that those personalities brought something out and made that show have its own flavor. I think that's how that stuff works. Like, to me, like you can look at shows and if you're like, that looks like a really good show, or they look like they had a lot of fun making that show, or that show, like things just feel like they have a flavor to them. And and I really think that that's the case. Like, it's not just, are they good people, but it's also their personalities and how they mix to make something.
Yeah. I mean, every production it's a unique experience of the combination of the team that you put together. I mean, I think about even like when I was, the time I spent on Tron, probably some of the most amazing people I've ever worked with, completely different tastes, personalities, temperaments. But, through that kind of combination, that in that particular case, Charlie Bean was the EP and supervisor on that one. The people that he found and decided to put together on that particular show created that show. So every production you work on, if you have those, like you said, Guardians, those just like Tom is very different than Frank, who is very different than Dave, but putting those personalities and those talents together, kind of ultimately you end up with a product that's going to be unique unto that moment in time.
Yep.
And hopefully, you've.
Well, it's funny because even when people leave a production and go somewhere and you replace them with somebody, it changes the production somewhat. It changes things. And depending on who leaves and what, the change can be seismic. It can be a very big shift in how you approach doing things. When you left Guardians and Dan took over, that was a seismic change. Like there was a definite, thing of like, okay, this is a different way of approaching stuff, because he had his way of doing stuff, and it changes stuff, and hopefully it changes it for the better, or changes it, but it changes. It's a mix of people. Even changing board artists changes things. It's amazing. I think it's a really amazing phenomenon that occurs with that stuff.
It's magic.
Yeah. Yeah, we're making magic. So.
We are.
I've noticed when we do comedy shows, when I owned my comedy club in New York on 39th and Park, I always had every show was a diverse show. I had people coming in and they're like, why don't you do the all Latin show, the all gay show, the all lesbian show, the all this show? And I never really liked those shows. I mean, there are a purpose for those shows and those shows are great. But what I found being in Midtown Manhattan is if you have a very diverse lineup of comics and a very cross-pollinated demographic of audience, everybody learns something from everybody. I call it threading the demographics. So when you have a show that threads the demographics, we become closer because we learn stuff about those different micro cultures and micro groups that we never knew about. Because when you do a joke about something and that group laughs because they're in the subculture and they're part of the inside joke, you want to know why that's funny. And by investigating that, it makes you closer to that group and vice versa. So by the end of that show, everybody walks out with a little bit of a thread into each one of those subcultures and demographics, which is, to me, the biggest value of those type of shows, which is why I never did a all themed show. They're cool and they're great and they're fun and I go to them and they're, you know, I have a good time. But as far as the shows that I do and I did, what, you know, in my experience, you know, being a national touring comic and going from, you know, the Northeast to the South to the Midwest to California, Northwest, you know, close to the border, not everybody's the same and not all that material works everywhere. But when you find a common denominator that you can thread, and no matter where you go, you can figure out a way to make those people laugh, there's a value in that.
Yeah.
You know,
You don't want things to be inbred.
Yeah, well,
no, I mean, inbreeding, the only good thing inbreeding has ever done is make pugs, right?
So yeah, I mean, I don't think anything is, if it's too incestuous, yeah, it becomes, it's because then it's too insidery, it's too inside jokey, or it's too inside, you know, where do you go with that stuff? So you have to say, okay, you want, there's universals, I think, you know, for emotions, and it's you know, it comes from staging, editing. It doesn't always have to come from the acting alone or the performance, you know. It's like you can cry on a cut, you know, if it's done well, you know, from one thing to another. It's like it's editing can, you know, editing makes a huge difference. What images follow and juxtapose, you know, from one scene to the next has a huge impact on people and their emotions, and you're projecting stuff. So, you know, I think understanding that and being aware of that helps a lot more than trying to be too insidery or too clever for your own good. I think those are dangerous things, you know, when you're trying to reach the masses. Maybe if you're making something that's a little more niche-y, then you can be a little more dangerous with stuff and take some more chances. It just depends. It depends on who your audience is. You have to kind of know your audience and what you're trying to say to them to get that appeal. So, Michael asks, can you remember some examples of great things in a portfolio that really stuck out as different or eye-catching, hire-worthy material? Just good shit, right? It's a good drawing.
Sometimes bribing works.
Not with this guy.
Send your portfolios to Alex Salyer.
$1,000, please. I mean, I've never really done too many portfolio reviews. I think.
Yeah.
Something that was different or eye-catching. I guess it's just a combination of like technical skill, but also being able to entertain, being able to know what you've done that looks good that you should put in a portfolio. And also, one of the biggest mistakes I see in portfolios is like saving the best stuff for last, which feels like you want to end on a good note, but like have all your best stuff like right away.
Yeah.
And I think less is more too. Like when I used to make reels, when I used to make portfolios, I would put in a lot of shit because I was like, well, if they don't like this one, then they're probably going to like this one. And, you know, I would stack all these things out of like insecurity and fear. But like, if you have one amazing masterpiece of a thing and everything else is garbage, just put that one thing in. Because I think people can kind of smell the insecurity in choices, especially when they're so experienced.
Leo, how much stuff do you need to look at before you're ready to make a hire? Before you know whether or not you're going to hire somebody?
A couple of pieces.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes one though, right? It's like
absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I always say this, any producer worth their salt, you know, can look at that, you know, they're not going to look at 1,000 pieces and hope that they find the next one that's good. Well, maybe this one will be better. It's like, put your best shit in there and leave out anything else. Yeah. Even if it's just a little, you know, a little bit.
I mean, a lot of times I have done quite a few portfolio reviews, and a lot of times it's not even a personal thing. It just comes down to like how much time I have in a day to actually look at something.
Right.
So if you put, like Alex was saying, the best stuff up front, like in your choice stuff, just put your choice stuff up, then somebody who knows what they're doing and you know what you're looking for, if you see it, it's a done deal.
Yeah. And it's kind of like you want to respect the person's time that's looking at it too.
Yes.
It's like, you know, it's like if you go to a convention and someone's trying to sell stuff or whatever, and you are just standing at their table talking at them for a really long time, and there's like a line behind them or something. Like, you just want to respect someone's time and just be like, this is who I am. Okay, I'm moving on, kind of thing.
You want all killer, no filler, man, right? It's like, you know, it's like an album, like putting together music. Bands don't want to put a bunch of shitty songs on their album sandwiched between like two really good ones. It's like, you know, it's like make all killer, you know, even if it's a 20-minute album, like kick ass. Like that's what, you know, so that's what you want for your portfolio.
You can smell the shoe leather if it's there.
Exactly. So, you know, so all right. Well, maybe we'll start to wrap this up a little bit. But Alex, you have stuff you want to show, so let's get to you. And we're at the late night portion of the show. So, are you ready to share some of your work with people?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know what this was, so I didn't know if I was supposed to do a presentation or what.
Yeah, dude. You'll be graded on this. I'll give you a grade after. So, yeah.
I could show, I could just show some animation stuff that I've done.
Dude, do you want to talk a little bit about, you know, some of the stuff you have or whatever? It's, you know, I think that would be great. So whatever.
Is there a way, if I play a video, will you guys get sound?
Yes. If you go to share screen, and you open it up, Alex, at the bottom, there's a thing that opens up that you click on. It says share computer sound. So if you do that, you can share the computer sound with everybody.
Oh.
Do you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just click on that.
Okay. So this is just like some stuff that I've done. This is like a recent reel of mine. Just so you guys can see like how me kind of doing my own specific stuff has gotten me like pretty specific gigs. So yeah.
Hit that play button.
Oh, it wants my password for some reason?
What? Well, make sure you don't show everybody your password.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
That's great stuff, man.
Thanks.
Oh, dude, that's great. I can totally see the John Crispolucci stuff in there. Alex worked with John Kay back in the day, right?
I did. That's where I got my start. After porn, that's where I got my start.
Yeah, well, that's everybody. That's everybody. Everybody came out of porn and then worked for John Kay for a while. So that's how that. That's how.
Oh,
that,
no audio? You guys didn't have the audio?
No, what happened? No, dude, I was going to ask you. I didn't want you to feel bad. I was going to say, what happened to the audio?
Well,
What the hell happened, Alex?
I don't know. I'll put this in the chat so you guys can see it
You
with
can play it
audio.
again
But
if the audio, I don't know. Like usually, audio works. If you share audio, it usually comes up.
so basically, I have pretty specific interests and sensibilities, and like I really love a lot of my stuff is very like kind of sexy but stupid. So like that scene of Sarah Lynn that was up there with her twerking and stuff, that was specifically like assigned to me because they knew that I've worked with like pop stars before, and I've done like a lot of animated twerks. I've animated a lot of butts, you know, like really simple, basic stuff. It's like, you know, it's fine to be put into a box in a weird way, as long as like it's the box that you made yourself.
You know, I mean, aside from some of that, though, the work is really fun. Like, there's a fun quality to what you have there. It's, you know, really lively. Thanks. And really, yeah. So, I mean, you know, it's not just the butts, dude. It's the fun too, you know?
Yeah, and like I really love drag a lot, and I do a lot of like nightlife stuff, and that's what allowed me to work for like this drag queen who was animated there.
Yeah.
So I guess like what I'm trying to push is like really do what you like to do, and really like don't be ashamed of what makes you happy and what your interests are, even outside of animation, because animation can be about anything. So it's like, you know, you can mix your hobbies with it if you want.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun stuff. I mean, you got, you know, it's really beautiful stuff. It's funny and it looks great. Like it got so much life to it. I'm super impressed. Yeah, dude, super impressed. It's really, really nice stuff. You've made fans on here. So somebody wants to know, Daniel wants to know, are you doing her t-shirts?
Oh, Trixie's?
I guess so.
No.
Well,
I did animate stuff for the opening of her tour.
There's a whole market for you there, brother. So there you go.
Yeah. Because of that one, I recently did a Katy Perry video where I storyboarded that.
Oh, cool. Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, really, you never know what can happen.
I'm always so impressed by when, you know, people, when I'm talking to them doing these things. Like, I have such talented friends, and I'm so lucky that I know so many like really super talented people. Like, it's such an amazing thing. You know, like Leo's great. You know, it's like there's just so many people that you work with, and we kind of take it for granted every day almost, that we're coming in and just doing work and doing stuff. And when you sit down and talk to people and you like look at their work and you see what they're doing, and you're like, God damn, I'm working with like really, really genius level people. Yeah. And, you know, and it's just like, it's like one of those moments where almost the hair stands up on your arms. Like, I'm actually like, you're working with greatness, with people that are, you know, and like, but it's like a job to a lot of us, or we're humble. So many people are humble, but it's always nice to me to see this stuff outside of a work context, because it's inspiring. Like, it's like, damn, like,
Yeah.
and yeah, like we just take it for, like, I don't know what it is. Like, I don't want to say we take it for granted. We don't.
No,
But
I definitely don't.
we work with people, and sometimes you're just kind of like, how good they are. So you're not surprised by the work that they do, because it's just like, they're great. Like, they're going to do something great. But then when you step away from it and you're like, oh my God, like, just genius level stuff. It's just, it's inspiring. It's mind blowing to me all the time with that.
I love when people like, I love when you're working with someone for a long time and then you're finally like, can I see what you do outside of work? And it's like amazing.
Yeah.
That's how I felt about Jeff and Megan, like all of you guys on my team. Like, it's so cool that people still make stuff for fun too.
Yeah, and that's the hard thing too. It's so hard to do, that's the hard thing, is to do your own personal stuff. That's the stuff that probably is what keeps you alive too, is doing something for you. It keeps the juices flowing, and that's a tough thing when you're working all the time and you're burned out and you're tired. You need hobbies for sure.
Yeah.
Or different things. That's a big one. It is a big one.
It's good to have outside influences from animation too. Like,
yeah, Leo's really good with cars. You're like, so it's like, it's art. It's funny because it's art in its own. Like everybody, it doesn't have to be just about drawings all the time. Like, I think sometimes stepping away from the drawings is just as good, or if not better, because you're doing things that are stimulating that art, and it's artistic in and of itself. Like, I always think that working on car engines and things like, cars, the aesthetics of cars, of course, but also the mechanics that go into it, and understanding and problem solving. That's what we do, that's what we were talking. Weren't we just talking about that today? Were you in that conversation, Alex? When I know Jeff was, we were talking about board artists being problem solvers. We were talking about Jeff's scene.
Yeah.
It's like that. That's, it's so true. Like, that's the thing, is if you're a storyboard artist, you have to embrace being a problem solver, because you're going to constantly come up on problems, sometimes of your own making, and you have to really figure out logistical ways to make that work in a story that is going to pay off and be entertaining for people. And and you have to do it quick. It's not like you have months to figure this shit out. You have to do it very quickly.
Yeah.
So I think that's a real skill, those things. And I think, it doesn't surprise me, Leo, like you, like, what, that you're so into cars and doing that, because it's problem solving, and you're a very logical guy. Like, it's, for people that don't know, Leo, it's, but you're very logical, and the way you approach things, you always take a measured approach to things. And you kind of have to, because when you're working on a car, you can't just like go in and start fixing something, without thinking about what you're doing. You just can't tackle it without thought.
Sure.
Sorry, one second. I just want to point out, like, going back to the interest thing, it's no coincidence that Leo is in the position he's at on Fast and the Furious and just happens to like love cars too. It's like, you were perfect for that job because
right.
Passionate about. Okay,
Absolutely.
sorry. Off.
Leo, that was kind of a dream gig for you, right? Leo?
I mean, that's when I left Guardians, was for that particular job when it was offered to me. And part of that, like Alex said, I mean, having those outside influences in mind, one of my influences or interests being hot rods, and I'm building land speed motorcycles and stuff like that. Sort of, I'm sure it didn't hurt me when I walked in for that initial interview to supervise the show. I mean, it might just be that one tiny little thing that somebody is looking for that separates you from somebody else in that particular moment for that particular show. I would say that, and also include that there have been many shows that I haven't gotten, jobs and gigs I haven't gotten, and that's kind of part of the process too. You're not going to get everything, and you just can't take it personal because.
Can I ask you though, like the jobs that you didn't get after it had started, were you kind of like, no, yeah, I'm glad I didn't get that?
There's been those. There's certain. There definitely have been those because I mean I always try to keep. There's that saying that you never know what luck your bad luck saved you from, something like that. But I mean, because you're not afforded certain opportunities, then of course you're going to make other things are going to become available because you didn't get snatched up for that thing that you didn't get. And I think if you can kind of mentally get to that place, I think it makes the process of I don't know what to call it, I guess rejection, kind of more palatable.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of incredibly talented people and deserving people out there, and you're just not going to get everything. I know we kind of talk. I don't know. I like to be super positive about things and pie in the sky that every aspiration is going to be achieved, but you're going to miss out on something. But maybe the process of missing out on a thing, like I think that Alex is speaking to, affords you other opportunities that you wouldn't have if you were locked into, that thing that you didn't get.
I mean, I can tell you several instances of things where, you apply for a job and you don't get the job, and something comes along a week later, and you're like, oh, thank God I didn't get that other gig because this was like the best gig ever. And, or something, so I mean, like Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Right. So, you have to be, you got to put yourself out there, and you're not going to get everything. Like, you shouldn't even realistically expect that to happen. That's not a, hell, I'm sure, like Glenn Keane could put a portfolio, waltz in and apply and wouldn't get every job he applied for, because there's needs and certain things and style sensibilities and just all kinds of different things that go into it.
Yeah.
So,
it's not personal.
No, it's not. And you just have to go, okay, and you can't get dejected and quit because you didn't get, even if it's a dream job or in your mind, like that's the dream job and it doesn't happen. There'll be other dream jobs, there'll be something else that'll come up and you'll get it if you don't give up, or you'll put yourself in that position. You can't just say that's all or nothing. That's a bad attitude to have.
Yeah. And it's hard to see when there's an opportunity for you to strike to get another job when you're too caught up in any negative self-talk or any, if you're focusing really hard on not getting jobs, you're not focusing on getting a job.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in that.
Totally.
I think, you get what you talk yourself into. If you keep telling yourself, without being arrogant, I'm really good at this and I know what I'm doing, things start to happen. If you're positive that things are going to work out and you keep saying, okay, I didn't get this job, but you keep applying and for other things and you keep working on your stuff and you're realistic about who you are and what your limitations are and the things that you need to work on, and you work on them. I think that, the sky becomes the limit after a while. I've been working in this business since '96 now. And, prior to that, I worked for Marvel as a comic book artist, a penciler for them on Iron Man and War Machine and stuff, and had my own comic book through Image. And I'm just lucky. Like, it was just doofusy, luck to a certain extent, but I never talked myself out of things. Like I had a guidance counselor when I was in high school who told me, why would you should try to be an engineer, because how are you going to ever make a living doing comic books? And this was in Pittsburgh. And when I was working for Marvel, I happened to run into this guy. He was the guidance counselor, and he said, "Oh, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm working for Marvel, drawing Iron Man." And he said, "Oh, you should come and talk to, the class at the high school." And I said, "Yeah, I'll tell him that you told me I should become an engineer." I never heard back from the guy. He never called me back. So, but I mean, the thing is you're always going to have people telling you can't do something. You have to believe in yourself, and and be positive about what you're doing, and also be realistic and say, okay, I need to work on this, or I need to get better at this. If this is the job, maybe these are the things that are holding me back. And hopefully you have good peers that are telling you some stuff too, and they're honest with you in a nice way, helpful, critiques to say, hey, you need to do this better or that better. And you focus on that stuff, and you make yourself take those weaknesses and make them strengths. That's great. That's how that all works.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's actually a sign for you to go for it, when you have people giving you pushback and resistance with no, like, if you know you have the talent and the creativity, and you know that you have something to offer, you have a byproduct of your inner self, and somebody is giving you pushback not to do it, that's your sign to go for it. I can't tell you how many times people are like, hey, Kimbro, who's going to pay you to do your stupid little jokes? Who's going to hire you, fly you anywhere? And I worked, 5 years on the cruise ships, and I did like 10 years on the college tours, and I worked on radio shows and corporate things and air shows. I did an air show tour and did comedy for, 1 million people on the Cleveland airport tarmac. And everywhere I went, I sent a postcard back to those guys saying, hey, yeah, who would hire me to do my comedy? And sometimes that's the motivation that you need to really, really step your game up.
Yeah. I was trying to leave when I was working for John Kay. I was trying to leave for reasons that some of you probably know, that he's kind of crazy. And I remember there was this recruiter who I will not name. She was in contact with me for so long, and she kind of really made me feel like she was going to hire me. And this was for Cartoon Network. And she was aware of my stuff, and it felt like it was really close that she was going to bring me on. And she was like, I just don't like your style. It's too weird. It's too wacky. And it's just not what anyone wants. And it was very discouraging. It was very holy shit. I've spent so much time cultivating this look and this aesthetic. And she was very probably exceptionally rude about it, but most people aren't like that at all. And I'm really glad I didn't listen to her, because I found people that liked that stuff about me. But I had to be pretty social. I had to really go out and put myself out there and talk to people, get to know people. So.
Yeah, I'm a big Kiss fan, as Leo can tell you. But one of the things that they asked Paul Stanley one time, the lead singer, does it bother you that, critics are so savage with your music? And he's like, look, he said, I want to be one or the other. Either you love us or you hate us. And he said, I don't want to be in the middle. He said, who wants that? And I think there's a merit to that. I think there's a freedom to feeling that way, where it's look, not everybody's going to love everything that you do. So why try to please everybody? Please yourself.
And you're not going to love everybody either. So if you can accept that you don't love everybody, you need to accept that not everyone's going to love you.
Yeah. So, I think that's how that works. And on that note, I love you guys, and thank you for doing this. So I think we're going to call it a night, because I want you guys to go get dinner or do whatever. And I can't thank you enough. Leo, thank you so much.
Of course, anytime, Dave.
And I miss you, buddy. I
miss you too.
Yeah, I wish this whole thing wasn't going on. I saw Sean at the Kings game literally like a week or two before all of this happened, and we were going to go do lunch. So the next time, you know, I'll go out and go get something, and you know, I'll let you drive. You can drive my car if you want. You know, if you still want to drive a Tesla.
It's too fancy for me, brother.
Oh, get out of here. So, but you can step. We'll go on the freeway. You can floor it. We'll do like 150 on the. We'll do ludicrous speed. So we'll.
Okay.
Right now, it'd be a perfect time. There's nobody on the road. But it's good seeing you. Thank you.
Good to see you too.
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too, Alex.
Yeah, and
It was a pleasure.
you know, I got to say, like, you know, you meet some great people in this business, and Leo is definitely you're one of them. You know, I'm so glad that I got a chance to work with you and do stuff with you. So, you know,
Thank you.
good luck on Fast and Furious, and my friend, and you know, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good.
Talk to you soon,
Can't
Alex.
wait to see it.
I'll see you tomorrow, Alex.
Oh yeah, it's Wednesday.
Yeah. So yep, you get to see me all week. So can't escape me, buddy.
Oh, lucky me! Wow.
That's right. Lucky you. So, Kimbro, it's always an honor having you here, my friend.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. You know, I always like to be a fly on the wall in your world because I always learn something cool and I meet cool people. So
yeah, it's always nice having these awesome people that are on here and everything. So, and Jeff, it's good seeing you. Megan, I don't know if you're still here. If you are, it's good to have you. Oh, you're here. So it's good having you here. Everybody, it's nice having you here. So enjoy your week. Stay COVID free, and we'll see you next week.
Mwah.
Right.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye.
see you guys.